Good evening. I will call the regular council meeting of July 13th to order. It is 5:30. I begin tonight's meeting with a land acknowledgement. The City of Lacombe acknowledges that we live, work, and govern on the shared territory of Treaty 6. We honor the histories, languages, cultures, and continuing contributions of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and other First Nations, as well as the Métis people of Battle District Territory District 3 and beyond. We affirm our ongoing relationship with this land and commit to the respectful and meaningful engagement with Indigenous peoples as partners in our community. We do have a presentation and a couple of public hearings this evening, but first on our agenda is the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda? Councillor Span.
I would like to pull the CAO Q2 report.
Absolutely. We will just move that item down into, even though it's not technically a request for decision, but into 6.5. Any other pulls from the consent agenda? Does not appear to be so. Councillor Span, would you like to make the motion to adopt the consent agenda as amended?
Yes, I will make that motion to adopt the consent agenda as amended.
No further questions. I'd go ahead and call the question. Please vote. And that has passed unanimously. We do not have Councillor Dykeslag with us this evening. That moves us then to the second item on our agenda, which is the regular agenda. Do I have any omissions, additions? If not, an amendment, sorry, a motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. I move that we adopt the regular agenda as amended.
Very good. No further questions. I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote. Technically on the board, it says meeting minutes, but we all know that that was meant to say agenda. That is what we voted on. That is passed unanimously. So that does then move us to presentations. We have one presentation. Wolf Creek Public School Division has a partnership opportunity that they wish to share with us. So I would invite representatives that are here to speak on that item to the presenter table, please. Yes. So if you would just turn on your microphone, introduce yourself, and the floor is yours. Welcome to council.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs and councillors. My name is Tessa Jones. I am the regional manager for Careers The Next Generation. We are a nonprofit, so I'm here to talk to you guys. We actually have a wonderful partnership with Wolf Creek Public Schools. My counterpart, Dion, is unable to join me tonight, so it'll just be me. I wanted to come and talk about some potential opportunities with the city and some of the pieces that we do to involve youth, and more importantly, youth in the workforce and supporting our communities. So if you have any questions, I can answer them as we go. Please feel free to interrupt me. So Careers is a nonprofit. We are partially government funded and partially industry funded. We have been around for 28 years. Our main role is to help students in high school as early as grade 9 get into the workforce, start exploring career options, and really get them working. We're a huge supporter of the REP program, work experience. We work very closely with school divisions across the province. I have been fortunate enough to work with school divisions in Central Alberta. I'm actually born and raised in Lacombe, so I just live north, so I didn't make it very far. So I'm quite excited to be able to come back and, you know, work in the high school just down the road again. For me, it's kind of come full circle, my journey with careers, but I have the really unique opportunity to support youth in this community and support businesses and employers in this community making that connection to youth. I feel, you know, youth workforce development has been a hot topic. Moreover, even just workforce development as a whole, solving some of our trade shortage, labor shortage that is in the media and quite prevalent in our communities nowadays. So we primarily connect students to paid internships. Minimum wage is what we encourage employers to pay their students for a wide variety of occupations and programs. Skilled trades for us is probably it's actually where we came from, how we were founded up in Fort McMurray. Skilled trades is a big piece, but we have expanded in the last 10 years into technology. Agriculture is our second largest program now. Healthcare, anything really to do to help those students in those industries that are struggling. So we do that by working with students one-on-one, working with school divisions and schools to help them with resume building, interview skills. We support our schools in doing that, and then really connecting those students to employers. So we foster that relationship until the point of an interview, and then we let the students and the employers kind of take it from there. So we have seen a great success working so closely with school divisions. We're actually just finishing a 3-year pilot with Alberta Education and Careers that we actually seconded staff from each school division to support our partnership and get more students aware of the programs and get kind of foster how that works within each school division. I am a little biased coming from Wolf Creek Bond Lake Schools. We have a really great relationship with them, and they've done a lot in especially the last couple of years to really bridge the gap between what's next for their students. I know the graduation rates are increasing, especially minorities and, you know, students in some of their farther away schools, which is really encouraging. But really our impact lies around what happens next. When they graduate, what pathway do they have, and how do we support that pathway? So this is just some stats from last year. So our fiscal year last year, we ended up at just over 5,600 interns across the province. For the central region, we were just over 750. So that's 750 students in work placements across Millet down to Carstairs, Rocky, to Castor Coronation. So that's our central band. Of course, Lacombe had a large portion of that compared to other communities, which is really wonderful to say. We facilitate special internships for our Indigenous students, as well as a focus on our initiative of young women in trades and technology. There will be a video here in a little bit about our support of young women, especially in STEM occupations, which is really neat. I think for me, you know, one of the best part about my job, but, you know, really that connection is I actually started with Careers as an intern. I went to school down the road and I had someone from Careers drop by and do a presentation, and I'm like, yeah, that sounds like something I want to do. And that's what got me started in construction when I was 17. I still had to go back and finish high school, but that connection and that support helped me get into the construction industry. I spent about 10 years in construction after that, and just paving the way for me as a young person into the what next part. So I'm quite privileged to be able to do that now for other students. But I think, you know, you'll see some more stats about how we do this work and the importance of kind of that all-encompassing partnership and what that means. Lacombe, I would say, has really wonderful businesses doing wonderful things, but we're still seeing a huge amount of students seeking opportunities. You know, the last 3 years we've had 35% more students on average than positions, especially in the summer months. And that's kind of what I'm here to help. Hopefully you guys help me rectify. So for us, we support a lot of students within Red Deer, but a lot of our success and a lot of where we see the greatest impact is our rural communities. And one of the things we've learned, I've been with Careers just over 5 years now, is the lack of knowledge our youth have in what amenities are here and what occupations and what industries are here. We partner quite closely with Nova Chemicals, which is now Baroque International. And, you know, the amount of students that we take out there who don't know what that site has to offer in the way of occupations, it is quite shocking to me, you know, even the horticulture that's here, that's in and around Lacombe, like the opportunities for careers and the lack of knowledge that students have is something we're trying to bridge that gap for them. But I think keeping those students in the rural communities, finding their home here, realizing they don't necessarily need to go to a metro in order to have a career and a life is one of our big pushes in having those conversations. Lots of students want to stay, they just don't quite see the connection. So that's where we've seen with our program, getting them working, getting those opportunities to them, especially at the young age. A lot of educators I work with, that's why we've kind of gone into even grade 8, grade 9. The younger we have that conversation, the better about their pathway and what exists. I mean, parents do a wonderful job of, you know, educating their own children, but there's a lot more support that's needed at times. And that's where we come in partnership with the school divisions. I think there's, you know, definitely an aging workforce is something that we have seen and we have heard, especially in trades, seems to be the kind of the top of everybody's mind, how many journey people are actually retiring and how many apprentices are needed to fill those spots, especially considering some of the, you know, the projects, the infrastructure projects around this area that have been increasing. We're definitely seeing those concerns or those pinch points hit rural communities a little bit harder. So that's where we're coming at it from more of a wholesome approach with cities and towns about how can we support these youth while they're here, while we still have, I'll say, a captive audience. If anyone has teenagers, they might disagree with me. But that's really our goal, is to promote this and get this out in the hands of students. I know in this day and age, we have information at our fingertips. And one of the things we've been finding, especially with youth, is there's information everywhere and they're not finding the right information at the right time. And even though we see it as quite accessible, it's quite overwhelming for them. So it does take time, and it does take multiple entry points and multiple reminders to support those students through their journey wherever they're at. We have been talking to local employers for the past 3 years really diligently. Time is a big concern, but also finding the opportunities and getting those students in there. It's kind of that vicious cycle. The students need experience, the businesses need somebody with experience, but those people don't necessarily exist, especially in the trades. Even in agriculture, you need that experience to do the job, but employers aren't necessarily able to find the time to train youth. We have seen more and more employers telling us that they're looking to grow their own workforce and to dip into the youth, and that's great. That's our mandate, is to support that. But I think as a whole, there's still a bit of a struggle amongst the business community that they are trying to stay afloat and they are trying to deal with everything that's been thrown at them in the last couple of years, and there's a lot of uncertainty. So we have really wonderful students, especially within the city of Lacombe looking. It's just getting through to some of our business community that this is more of a wholesome approach, that, you know, your daughter or your son may need an opportunity like this as well, and getting them off the bench and into the game, if I can use that analogy. There are some, you know, we have learned there are some wonderful opportunities here that the city of Lacombe boasts that other communities don't have. You know, the agriculture that is around here, even within the technology that exists and some of the technology companies and wonderful construction companies within the city of Lacombe, just trying to find that balance and find that voice. And I guess that's one of the pieces we're looking the city of Lacombe to support. If we can help get that message out there and help businesses understand what it means and how easy it can be. If I'm going over time, somebody hope.
No, please proceed.
This is just some numbers for the last couple of years. So this is only Lacombe Comp and Lacombe Outreach. So we support both schools. I just wanted to do kind of a focus on Lacombe as opposed to Wolf Creek. We have seen a lot of growth. We have seen a high amount of student applications. We always have more applications than students, but finding especially what the students are interested in is interesting to me. We have a high volume of healthcare students. We have a high volume of trades and actually a higher volume of agriculture. Being an agriculture-based community, we're seeing students wanting different things. You know, we have students that are growing up on dairy farms that want to get into horticulture or vice versa. So offering that variety, I think, is where they're trying to fill in some of those gaps. And then our student placements over the last 3 years have grown significantly. So this isn't Wolf Creek as a whole. This is just those two schools. Wolf Creek, we almost tripled that. Within all the schools of Wolf Creek, our pilot has worked extraordinarily well to basically bridge the gap between students and us. It is up to me and my team to then find them the opportunities. So the student interest is there, which is sometimes one of the harder things, but since COVID, we've really seen it rebound, which is encouraging. These are just a few of the success stories that we've had. I had a young gentleman, his name was Keaton. I placed him 3 years ago at Nova as a summer intern. So we have a summer internship program with Nova Chemicals, or Baroque now. That student went out, got to experience, they rotate them. Every week and a half, they go see a different occupation, all the way from power engineering to their lab, all the way into the trades positions. So this was a young gentleman. He is just finishing his 3rd year electrical now, which is really, really neat. I really appreciate Keaton. I know his mom sent me a note after that summer saying just how lost he was at the time and how this really helped him. We have a very great working partnership with Comet, of course. They take students from us repeatedly. So I think it's, helping them fill the position they have, and businesses understanding that it can mean a lot of different things. The positions and the students can be molded to what they need to suit their business need. It's not a little box. We can work around whatever the business needs are, which is really encouraging. I want to point out the quote from Sean Lougheed, who is the Director of Educational Services at Wolf Creek. He's been our main point of contact through this pilot and previous to that. We have placed many students, run many camps, supported students through exposure and experiences. So we're quite fortunate to have such a good partner in Wolf Creek. And that's why I can say confidently the volume and the quality of students from Wolf Creek and from Lacombe, I would say, are amongst the best. They are well-rounded. They are very well educated and prepared to the best we can. It's just a matter of kind of filling that gap for them. Oh, sorry. I would be remiss if I didn't point out some of our funders. These are the companies in different levels who fund careers, and we could not do the work without them. We have done some wonderful things with Baroque and Fortis, especially within this region. I know Fortis takes students from us every year. I know there's a few at the shop in Lacombe that are there because of the RAP program and because of careers, which is really encouraging. So we are quite fortunate to have that support from this industry. They see it as a very important part of workforce, especially in this day and age, going into the shortage that they're facing. So we are quite fortunate. So one of our way of doing this is, running anything from an exploratory camp, doing open shop nights, having employers, at times come in, or students go to their facilities and see what the experience is, all the way through to actually doing some job shadowing, all the way to let's get you hired and working. We want students to be able to try things. We do our best to find them, trying to help them navigate all the occupations. Like if you were to look at the Alice website and see all the list of occupations, it was probably hard for all of us to choose at one point. So, working one-on-one at times with these students to find their fit, we have lots of students who are headed off to post-secondary, and that is wonderful. We support it every opportunity we can. Let's get them some experience before they get there. Helps them refine their choice. We do that with a lot of our healthcare students who know they want to be a nurse. What area are they after? Do they want to experience that before they go to post-secondary, which is important, no matter what stage that student is at. So we support work experience. The RAP program is one of our biggest programs that we support. That means anything from getting a student into an internship to indenturing them as a RAP apprentice or a full apprentice with those employers. Work experience, the credits earned help them with scholarships and really support those students. Some of you may be familiar with work experience and or have done it in their high school path. We actually offer, in partnership with the Alberta government, 2 different streams of employer funding, where employers can offset the cost of a student for a set amount of hours and a set amount of volume, which we have found. Our recent one is the AYEI funding, which was launched last October with the Alberta government. We have seen about 1,000 students, 1,000 placements increase from this time last year, which is encouraging. I think local businesses need that support. Again, knowing it's out there is a bit of our challenge as well. Especially the smaller the business, they seem to struggle just finding that information. And then the youth internship program is really specifically meant for those trade students. Can we help employers who are ready to indenture and technically wrap an apprentice that's of high school age? So again, there's multiple different pathways. We support career exploration events. Like I had mentioned, we took a group of young women out to Nova Chemicals, and they spent the day out there. We got them a bus and we put them in a big coach bus and took them out there, and they got to experience all the different occupations that exist out there. We do classroom presentations, job fairs, anything that the school supports or needs, and what our business supports and needs. We've done a few specific nights just for employers. We support dual credit, pre-employment, any of those work integrated learning programs that the schools offer. Our role is really, once they're trained, then what's the next step? There's some really creative ways to get students trained now with dual credit and pre-employment, just helping them, once they have that wonderful training, get that next step and help them along. Mentorship is something we talk a lot about, having employers to mentor our youth. We have really great mentors. We are definitely lacking in that department. I think it comes down to time, and everybody seems to be very busy, especially business owners, and I can understand it. Students are definitely looking for that guidance. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of information out there. How do they do each step? And at times, sharing my career path with them has really helped students understand that it is possible and there's lots of options, but take that next step. I don't know if I can get this video to play. Maybe I will try. Thank you. I don't know if there's sound. There should be sound to it, but maybe not. This is, we did a Young Women in Trades camp with the County of Stettler. So we ended up with 25 each day, go out to the county shop, and they did hands-on welding. They drove equipment, they ran the excavators, they spent time with the fire department, they even had the police service out there arresting and putting students in handcuffs, which is always very memorable. Their mechanics, all those pieces. So this was really a focus on helping those young women or female identifying students, giving them the ability and the skills to do these things. We've done it a couple of years in a row now. We partner with the local Tom's Boots and get them some safety equipment as part of it. But we've really seen students, especially young women, see the opportunities and really, we have students from last year who are now working in industry because of this. So this is something that we are very proud of, and we would like to increase our engagement with different cities and towns and counties to put on these types of camps, because this is really what helps students. This is really what, they go from even on the fence to, yes, this is what I want. This is what I'm going to pursue. We try to aim this for grade 11, grade 12 students. So getting them before they graduate has the most impact, but really they're ready, they're like this close to taking that next step. So that is definitely one of the camps and one of the initiatives that we are most proud of. We do Indigenous camps a very similar way. I'm going there to Red Deer Polytechnic with a group of our Indigenous students on Wednesday, actually, to do something similar, some hands-on activities, really helping develop that career exploration piece. Ooh, there we go. So I wanted to kind of highlight, I guess, what our role is and what potentially, if the city is able to support in this way. A lot of connection, as you can imagine. I have a very small team of 3 program coordinators who literally knock on doors of businesses almost every day of the week, spreading the word about funding, about support, about hiring youth. There seems to be a lot of talk about workforce development. At times there's talk about youth workforce development, and at times there isn't. And I feel like it is a commodity in that way, that these students are here and willing and wanting, especially the wanting part. They want to work and they want to get involved and find their roots here. And it's just a matter of, can we make that connection, and does enough businesses know to help make that connection easy? I think the funding is definitely it's not a secret, it's out there, but it definitely is one of those things businesses don't know about. We talk to lots who just aren't aware of the grants and the opportunities and the funding available to make it easier for them. Of course, we would love to partner with the city at some point, if that meant, camps and exploration and, helping really pave the way and set the example. Because of our partnership, we're hoping to get our seconded resources with all the school divisions renewed for another 3 years. Unofficially, we're hopeful, but we haven't got the official announcement yet that pilot will continue for another 3 years. So again, I think all the work that's gone into, even over the last 5-6 years, we're at a point now where we need a little bit more of that collaboration from cities and towns and municipalities to support their businesses and support the youth. We are seeing them wanting to stay. I know we've even the Trades and Vocational Education Committee, by way of CAS, the College of Alberta School Superintendents, just released their survey results for high school students. Really, they focused on grade 12s, and they released this survey on what gets students the most interested and what helps them bridge that gap between graduation and their work or post-secondary or whatever that looks like. And the camps, the experiences, the go out and try are really what the students are saying has the most impact. So that's where we're adapting our strategy to fit that. That just came out like about a month ago, so I don't have all the pretty slides for it quite yet. And then I think the economic development, the collaboration, and are there projects? Are there projects where youth can be involved? I know in certain communities anyone bidding on a contract has to have a certain amount of students in part of the RAP program as part of that. So there are different ways to do that. And I think just opening up the conversation and how we can support is why I'm here. We have the students in this community, especially to make that happen for our businesses. It just comes down to how. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very timely presentations. Economic development is something that this council has talked about. It is being identified later on in our strategic plan as something that is a priority. Obviously, I appreciate what you said about a youth aspect to that, as well as, you know, creating a skilled workforce. If you're looking to attract new business, for example, you need to show that you've got a workforce that's prepared to step up and provide that. Youth unemployment, of course, is a major concern everywhere, but Lacombe as well. We've heard that over and over again. So programs like this could ideally bridge some of that. I know that there's challenges when it comes to youth. Transportation, especially if it's ag industry, is one. Healthcare would be things like security clearances. Of course, you can't get one before you're 18, so that's a little bit of a problem with high school. But there are lots of opportunities. You know, culinary students could look at institutional settings as well as restaurants. Like there's lots of options, but it does take awareness for employers to be. So I appreciate this presentation. I don't know if there are any questions from other members of council. Councillor Span.
Thank you, Presenter Jones, for that awesome presentation. I did have a few questions. There was one slide that I was looking at where it showed the number of placements and the number of applicants. Just trying to understand a bit of the economics that are going on there, because 2024, it looked like in Lacombe you placed 61% of the applicants, but then the amount of placements dropped for 2025. Do you think 2024 was an anomaly, or why do you think it dropped in 2025?
2024 was the beginning of our Secondi project, so we saw a bit of a bump. I think one thing to note, our fiscal year runs a little bit different. So we're October 1st to September 30th, so that's how we report. Definitely finding the amount of students who applied versus placed. We did struggle to find placements for a great majority of those students in 2025. Our careers as a whole has gone from an organization 4 years ago that had, I think we had 35 people, to now we're almost 100. So we have seen a very steep amount of growth in staff, and that sometimes poses its own challenge. I think especially in this region, when I started in 22, I was the only program coordinator running careers in this region, and that has increased over time, adding more and more staff. So we did see some dips. We saw some students, especially around like Lacombe Outreach. Lacombe Outreach has kind of done this as well as the staffing at the school, how they deliver the program. We've seen a few different models on how to deliver work integrated learning program and how it's supported through the school, and that's changed over the 3 years. So that's why you're seeing the rise and fall of it.
Sorry, just as a follow-up to that, through Mayor Hibbs to Presenter Jones. So you wouldn't say that it's been that businesses have been looking for less employees in 2025?
I would not say that, no.
Okay.
No, we've seen the businesses demand or anticipated demand, as well as, like, I don't have raw data for that. Businesses have stayed fairly consistent on needing it. It's more, you know, do we have the right students at that time? And 2025 was a bit up and down for us, but in that way. Yeah, we did see more and more students from especially Black Falls and Red Deer. Whereas, you know, now we're hoping to attract them the other way now that we have, you know, Iron
That's
Ridge
partly where my question's coming
secondary
from as
campus.
well. Yeah.
We have seen that.
If you're getting a lot of applicants and you don't have enough placements, how do you decide who gets the placements? Is it just first come, first serve? Do you have other criteria that you use?
It is incredibly challenging. Where they are in their school journey, recommendations from the school mean a lot to us. So we have the career counselors and off-campus coordinators, sometimes even teachers, tell us where the student's at in their journey and are they ready, or are they kicking tires, for lack of a better way to say that. We do go on what industry we know we have in our back pocket. There are times There, as a whole in central Alberta, last summer, we had 400 students unplaced. That's a really hard metric for me to handle. We ended up just over 700 applicants just for summer. Like that is a volume. So we pick based on their transportation a lot of the times, and the program area. We do find a lot more trades placements that way as opposed to healthcare. Doesn't mean there's less students. We have to play the probability, unfortunately, and a lot of students aren't getting those opportunities because of that.
Very good. One last question, Councillor Span, if you have one. Otherwise, we do need to move to our public hearing.
Okay, just the final question I had was, you mentioned that you're finishing a 3-year pilot program with the school division.
Yes.
Does that mean beyond that, that relationship won't be there? I would imagine that it would continue.
Oh, absolutely. So
Is it just
yeah.
more funding than that ends at the end of that pilot project?
So we're hoping we're waiting to hear about a new renewal for another 3 years, but no, that our relationship with Wolf Creek existed way before that. And it had worked really well before that. That was just to align us with, so we have a 20% seconded staff from Wolf Creek School Division that works on my team. So that's what that pilot was about, was making that connection into schools and just trying to close the gap for students. So that's the 3-year pilot. But no, our relationship with Wolf Creek will not stop. We have expanded and grown with them since the pilot, but that will, our planning and our goals for the continuing years with or without that funding will continue. Absolutely.
Thank you for your presentation. I don't think that there's any further questions at this time. If anybody does have anything to follow up with you, then they'll know how to get a hold of you through administration.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. We are now at the point in our agenda that we are ready to do our public hearings. We have 2 of them. I'll begin with the first, 5.1. I declare the statutory public hearing for bylaw 405.6 open at 6:07 p.m. This hearing is held pursuant to section 7, 216.4, 606, 640, 674, and 692 of the MGA 2000 as amended, and request that the legislative coordinator confirm the purpose of this public hearing, that the statutory public hearing notice was advertised as required by the city's advertising bylaw, and that any written submissions received and not included in the public hearing agenda package are read into record.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs and Council. The purpose of this public hearing is to provide an opportunity for the general public to offer input on the proposed amending bylaw 405.6, which received its first reading on June 8th, 2026. Bylaw 405.6 proposes to amend Schedule A, Map 1 of the city's municipal development plan to change lots 13 through 16, Block 1, Plan RN1, from commercial lands to mixed-use land. Future mixed use, sorry. In accordance with the city's advertising bylaw 482 and section 606 of the Municipal Government Act regarding advertising requirements, a public hearing notice was published in the Lacombe Express on Thursday, June 25th and Thursday, July 2nd, 2026, and is included in the agenda package. Mayor Hibbs and Council, no written submissions were received, and the city received only 1 registration from the members of the public to speak.
Thank you. All persons giving oral presentations are to clearly state their name for the record, and presentations are to be brief and to the point. The order of the statutory public hearing presentations will be the development officer or designate, those in favor, those opposed, and any person deemed to be affected. So I'll go ahead and please call the development officer up to the presenters table. And the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am here to present on the public hearing for the Municipal Development Plan Amendment Bylaw 405.6. So this is to propose an amendment to map 1 of the city's municipal development plan to change the subject lands from commercial lands to future mixed use. And a related report is presented for a land use bylaw amendment to create a direct control district being DC6 and redesignate the parcels at 5020, 5024, 5028, and 5032 51st Street. The applicant is proposing to develop the subject parcels as a comprehensive mixed-use development and has requested direct control zoning for the parcels. To approve the proposed mixed-use development and subsequent direct control district, amendments to the city's municipal development plan map 1 are required. So this is a screenshot of the proposed map, and they are quite small, but there's a green circle there that's highlighting the 4 parcels that are proposed to be changed from commercial lands to future mixed use. The subject parcels are currently shown as commercial lands. The subject parcels currently contain a parking lot, an established commercial building to undergo an exterior renovation, a vacant lot, and a lot with an approved demolition permit in place. The City of Lacombe consulted the public to obtain feedback through letters to adjacent landowners within 60 meters of the subject parcels and broad notice via the city's website and the Lacombe Express. No concerns were received. It's recommended that council give second reading to bylaw 405.6 as presented, and recommended that council resolves to consider the third reading of bylaw 405.6 at the same meeting as second reading, and recommended that council give third reading to bylaw 405.6 as presented. And administration is here to support council's deliberations. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. I don't see any questions at this time. I will go ahead and call anyone that's wishing to speak in favor. I believe we have a registration for in favor.
Good evening, Mayor Hibbs, Council, Administration. My name is Darcy Stingle, Business Development Associate at Tricon. And as co-author of the applications leading to these public hearings, it may surprise you to hear that I'm here to speak in favor of these hearings. I'd ask that my commentary actually be considered and applied generally to both the MDP amendment and the subsequent direct control zoning, as they're somewhat interconnected, and then I only need to speak once. As a local company, Tricon supports developments that involve investment in our downtown core, building new business opportunities and contributing more than they take. And though council and administration are generally aware of our efforts to date, I registered to speak this evening to provide an entry into the public record about this incredible project coming to Lacombe. The 4 properties on 51st Street identified in these hearings are now owned by our client, Number 4 Holdings, and the owner of this company has a vision to bring a mixed-use development to the downtown core, including 4,000 square feet of commercial space, 4 new residential units, expanded and improved parking facilities and pedestrian amenities, amongst other contributions. For this project to proceed as envisioned, amendments are required to ensure maximum positive impact to the downtown core. Now, before I proceed, I'd like to congratulate council on having an open mind, especially when we first presented the project for consideration. We'd also like to acknowledge the support and assistance from administration in helping to navigate the procedural requirements in realizing this project. And we know this redevelopment will be impactful in addressing several topics and concerns that are consistently arising from citizens and will make positive contributions in showcasing Lacombe as an investor attractive community, providing new commercial space for business growth and attraction, adding more housing options to those who work and live downtown, especially those without transportation, enhancing and expanding parking opportunities for downtown visitors, creating a community space that can be enjoyed year-round, supporting our mural program by planning for a future mural installation, modernizing underutilized and vacant downtown lots into tax-producing entities, investing into the community's economy during pre-construction, construction, and post-construction activities. And of course, we hope to empower other building and property owners to begin their own innovative thinking and how to build upon the momentum of downtown's revitalization. Speaking directly to the new direct control district proposal, I would like to assure council that the intention of the project owner is to deliver a contemporary development that is sensitive and respectful to the historic downtown, but also reflects modernized needs. The existing C1 zoning, as well as other potential zonings, do not account for the innovative approach to these properties in aligning the parking, the orientation of the buildings, and use, hence the proposed new DC. This isn't to throw a 4-story tower and lord over downtown. This is simply to ensure that the existing layout of the lands and buildings and opportunities can all align correctly. We envision future properties potentially rezoning this proposed structure as it introduces a mixed-use component that we feel would be of immense benefit to what we've been calling the peripheral of downtown Lacombe, where the downtown core meets the residential areas. And with the Development Authority overseeing the general regulations and council having final approval on building heights, parcel coverage, and vehicular and pedestrian considerations, we feel this new zoning is a positive step in fostering a collaborative relationship and approach between administration, council, and developments and investors. So in closing, we're excited to continue moving this project forward and to begin sharing more as work progresses. And likewise, we encourage council to support both of the items on tonight's public hearing agenda. That's the MDP amending bylaw 405.6 and the upcoming land use bylaw amending bylaw 400.8. Thank you for the opportunity for Tricon to speak in support of these proposed amendments, and we are committed to seeing this project through, excited for our community, and we thank you for your involvement and consideration.
Are there any questions of clarification of this presenter? I do not see such.
Right.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Span.
Thanks for that, presenter Stingle. Just one question, and that was there a specific about other zonings that made it so that you needed the direct control, or was there a number of different minor things?
Thank you, Councillor Span. The existing zoning districts weren't quite the right fit. Some of them were 70, 80% there. The reason that we are applying for a new zone is one part to begin establishing mixed use as a concept for downtown and beyond. For example, in this new direct control zone, we've identified parking requirements for both business and residential components. It's not just a lump sum parking. I think we've gone a little more robust on landscaping requirements as well. And one of the main pushes for this was simply parcel coverage. In downtown Lacombe, there's a lot of street frontage required in the zonings because of the unique opportunity to position, I don't want to call it a parking lot, I'm going to call it a parking lot public space. There's lots of public amenities being incorporated, benches, lighting, trees, shrubbery, etc. In order to accommodate both the expanded parking and the position of a new two-story mixed-use development, a new DC was suggested to be proposed to help create the conditions required to put this forth and achieve every possible maximization of these four parcels.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Do I have anyone additionally that is willing or wanting rather to speak in favor of this item? I do. Just please turn the microphone on and introduce yourself. Yes.
Hello, City Council and staff. My name is Lyndall Cave, and I am here in my capacity as a citizen tonight. And basically, I'm just here for this particular part of the bylaw to say it sounds like a great idea. I'm excited about it. I have more notes once we get to the other part.
Okay.
Yeah, I am excited about the idea of more mixed-use development downtown in Lacombe, and I think that is something that could be really great. And you'll hear more from me later. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Last opportunity. Do I have anyone that's opposed to this item that would wish to speak? I would invite them to take the presenter table now. Another opportunity. Final opportunity. Any person deemed to be affected that wishes to be heard? An opportunity to speak. Second opportunity. I will deem that as no one is interested to speak to those. I will declare that the public hearing for bylaw 405.6 is closed at 6:19. We do have two public hearings as has been referenced, so I will go ahead and move us into the second. I declare the statutory public hearing for bylaw 400.80 open at 6:19 p.m. This hearing is held pursuant to Section 7, 216.4, 606, 640, 674, and 692 of the MGA 2000 as amended, and requests that the legislative coordinator confirm the purpose of this public hearing, that the statutory public hearing notice was advertised as required by the city's advertising bylaw, and that any written submissions received and not included in the public hearing agenda package are read into record.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs and Council. The purpose of this public hearing is to provide an opportunity for the general public to offer input on the proposed amending bylaw 400.80, which received its first reading on June 8th, 2026. If approved, bylaw 400.80 will amend land use bylaw 400 by creating a new direct control district, DC6, and will redesignate lots 13 through 16, block 1, plan RN1 from downtown commercial district C1 to the new direct control district DC6. In accordance with the city's advertising bylaw 482 and section 606 of the Municipal Government Act regarding advertising requirements, a public hearing notice was published in the Lacombe Express on Thursday, June 25th and Thursday, July 2nd, 2026, and included in the agenda package. Mayor Hibbs and Council, no written requests were received and the city received one registration from members of the public to speak.
Thank you very much. All persons giving oral presentations are to clearly state their name for the record, and presentations are to be brief and to the point. The order for the statutory public hearing will mirror exactly the same as we did in the previous. That will be the development officer, then those in favor, then those opposed, and then any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard. I will invite the development officer to come forward, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council again. My name is Moira Backway. I'm the acting manager of planning and development, and I'm here to present on land use bylaw amendment 400.80. So this is an amendment to the city's land use bylaw by creating a new direct control district and redesignating parcels at 5020, 5024, 5028, and 5032 51st Street from their existing designation of C1 downtown commercial district to the new DC6. A related report was presented for an MDP amendment to revise map 1 of the municipal development plan. The applicant is proposing to develop the subject parcels as a comprehensive mixed-use development and has requested direct control zoning for the parcels. If approved, the proposed DC6 district would allow residential development, commercial development, or mixed-use development containing both residential and commercial uses. I'm going to go off slide here a little bit because it looks like this is actually an outdated presentation. So just bear with me and I'll try and talk a little bit slower than I normally do. So there's not accompanying slide here for this. So under the Municipal Government Act, Section 641, the council of a municipality that has an adopted MDP in place may designate land as direct control district if it wishes to exercise particular control over the use and development of land or buildings within an area of the municipality. Once a direct control district is in place, subject to any applicable statutory plan, council may regulate and control the use or development of the land or buildings in the district in any manner it considers necessary. This includes council making decisions on development permit applications within the proposed district. So basically, this means that it is a unique district that allows for specific controls determined by council, and in this case, approved by council as development authority for new structures. So to reference Councillor Span's question in the previous public hearing, some components of this specific direct control district include building orientation, landscaping requirements, parking requirements, and setbacks from the front yard. So the proposed bylaw is to determine if the direct control district is required within the broader context of the city's land use bylaw, and if so, are the proposed uses appropriate and align with council's vision for development in the city's downtown core. If the direct control district is deemed suitable under this same bylaw, council would then determine if the district should be applied to the 4 subject parcels to accommodate future development. The application is unique as it requires both the creation of a new district as well as redesignation of subject parcels, rather than just a singular redesignation to an existing district that is already in the land use bylaw. The proposed DC's stated purpose is to provide flexibility for a range of commercial and residential uses or a combination thereof with a complementary zoning option for properties in the downtown core, particularly those in the periphery of historic downtown, to maximize land use while meeting growth demands and modernizations expected of a contemporary community. So bylaw 400.80 would establish the DC 6 district and rezone the subject parcels. Development permit application approval will be required prior to any development occurring. As a direct control district, council will see any development permit applications for new development. So this would again mean new structures. Things like a home occupation 1 or a change of occupancy, fascia signs would be under the development officer's authority. However, this direct control district does have the provision that the development officer can refer any application to council as deemed necessary. Yeah, sorry, everyone. This is not at all what the presentation was I thought I was going to be presenting tonight. So I'm going to be jumping around a little bit here. Just bear with me. This is a land use map that shows the 4 subject parcels we're talking about this evening. And we're just reiterating here that the C1 zoning, the lots could be redeveloped for any listed use in that district. And as mixed use is proposed, a redesignation is required. Okay. All right. In the proposed direct control district, administration would be the development authority for change of occupancy or approvals in established buildings, and council would be the approval authority for new structures. This would allow council to provide additional direction and conditions on approvals. It would also impact any appeals, as council decisions cannot be appealed through the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board. So where this changes things in process is there would be a little bit more front end time in the application, getting it onto a council agenda. However, there would not be the 21-day mandatory appeal period on the back end that is typically seen with discretionary use applications. For reference, there's a little table on this slide that shows the various direct control districts that are existing in the city's land use bylaw and the development authorities for each. So in DC1, council is the authority for setbacks, building height, site coverage, and the development authority being the development officer is for parcel area, width, landscaping, parking, and signs. In DC2, council is the authority for buildings and use decisions, and the development authority is the authority for parcel area and width. DC4, council is the authority for discretionary uses, and the development authority is for permitted uses. And direct control district 5, council is the approving authority for all decisions. And then this is a slide that shows the listed permitted uses and discretionary uses being proposed within DC6. Just for council's reference in the public hearing this evening, we can flip back and forth to this as needed during deliberations. And the city of Lacombe consulted the public to obtain feedback through letters to adjacent landowners within 60 meters of the subject parcels and broad notice via the city's website and the Lacombe Express. No concerns were received. Administration would like to note that following first reading, minor changes were made to bylaw 400.80 to improve the clarity and administration of the bylaw. These are, for first, clarifying the development authority's role to approve sign applications within the direct control district, rather than having each sign application be presented directly to council for a decision, and replacing the term site coverage with the defined term parcel coverage for consistency with the land use bylaw. And those changes are shown in red line and red bold in bylaw 400.80. So it's recommended that council give second reading to bylaw 400.80 as amended, and recommended that council resolves to consider the third reading of bylaw 400.80 at the same meeting as second reading, and recommended that council gives third reading to bylaw 400.80 as amended. And we are here to support council's deliberation, and thank you for your patience on this presentation.
Thank you. Are there any questions for clarification for this presenter? No. Okay. I will move to anyone wishing to speak in favor. I did note that we have one registration, but was that for Mr. Stingle, the registration? Okay. And so you've already indicated that you do not wish to speak again. So I will open that up then to anybody else that's willing or wanting to speak in favor. And same as last time, just please turn on the microphone and state your name.
Hello, I'm Lyndall Cave, and again, I will reiterate that I'm here in my capacity as a citizen of Lacombe who often walks downtown, and that I am overall in favor of this bylaw amendment. But I would like to make a couple suggestions or bring up a couple points for council, particularly around the parking. It is my personal opinion that there is maybe too much parking encouraged in this bylaw. While I think the residential parking minimums are reasonable, commercial parking seems a little bit overblown when taken in consideration with the context of the rest of the land surrounding this particular parcel. You can see in the aerial view, there are 4 parking lots that are visible outside of this particular zone, and there is also on-street parking. And there is also the LMC 1 block to, I don't know what direction that is, but the LMC is also there. So to be mandating even more parking feels a little bit strange to me, especially since we have parking lots as a permitted use, whereas like accessory dwelling units and apartments are a discretionary use. And that feels a little bit strange to me because housing is great and fantastic. I'm a big fan, as you know. And housing and businesses provide a lot more tax revenue than a parking lot does. So I would like to see things that encourage more productive development of land than just parking spaces, which cost a lot of money to create and maintain and do not bring in the same sort of tax revenue that commercial space or residential space would form. So overall, I am a fan of this particular bylaw amendment, but I would suggest that perhaps the parking requirements do not need to be so strict for, and I know that it's relatively small in comparison to other things, but it does refer to the parking land use bylaw, which again, it feels a bit like overkill on the parking downtown when there already is so much. So yes, that's my thoughts on this particular bylaw amendment.
Thank you for sharing your perspective. Any questions for this presenter? Does not appear to be so. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak in favor of this item? Last call. You can. You got in just under the wire.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs, Council Administration.
Please introduce yourself again.
Darcy Stingle, I'm Business Development Associate with Tricon. Was not prepared for the concern of too much parking. We were prepared for the concern of not enough parking. And the reason that this direct control district was designed the way it was, and the reason we implemented the parking requirements we did, is that this proposed 4,000 square feet of main floor commercial space could potentially become 1, 2, maybe even 3 units. And each unit comes with an owner operator, an employee base, a client base as well. So we wanted to ensure that whether a single tenant took all 4,000 square feet, or 2 tenants each took 2,000, or there was a 3-in-1 split, or whatever the combination happened to be, that the parking requirements would be adequately addressed without biting into additional public parking, especially because council deemed it appropriate to part with the existing public parking there. We're very supportive in the acquisition of the provincial lot through a lease as well. We find that to be very forward thinking and utilizing existing parking stalls with minimal effort, essentially, to provide that to the public. And I would like to reiterate that this direct control district was purposely worded, phrased, and designed with a pre-existing development in mind. With that, the parking spaces have been designed to both house vehicles, but I'm going to call it the parking lot in between these two buildings, the existing to be renovated and the proposed new mixed use, are designed as more than just pavement. There are benches, there are landscape, there are bike stalls, there's potential provision for EV charging stations in a future date. I believe our client is strongly considering string lighting between the two buildings to help create more than just a parking lot, but perhaps in the evenings or weekends or off times, an additional public gathering space for markets, gatherings, celebrations, Lacombe Days, Light of the Nights, etc., and help to tie into existing aesthetic efforts through DARP, etc., downtown. And I would say, finally, the DC proposed uses, the discretionary and permitted uses, I should say, were more or less cribbed from existing DC zonings. And although we may look at some of these and think that would not fit in downtown, we wanted to ensure that it was included for future consideration and other properties in the area who may be a better fit for some of these uses, but want to adopt this zoning for their own properties. And of course, to remind everyone that although the Development Authority is one of the guiding factors, should there be anything contentious or requiring additional public input or council guidance, it is absolutely able to be referred upwards and considered from that point. So I would like to thank Ms. Cave for her comments and for catching me flat-footed, because I didn't think too much parking was going to be a concern. I had every other argument ready to go, but thank you for that. And again, we're still here in support of these amendments.
Any questions for that presenter? Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Through to you, Mr. Stingle. I noticed that equipment rentals was mentioned in the report as something that's not in the C1 zoning, but is proposed for DC6. And I was just wondering if you could speak to what kind of equipment rentals you'd be thinking of.
Large tractors. No, in all due seriousness, we understand that economically times are shifting and are different, and the ownership of some pieces of equipment are no longer feasible or obtainable by some. And therefore, there may be a market for equipment rental. And when I'm speaking to equipment rental, I'm not so much envisioning rototillers or small tractors, perhaps steam cleaners, perhaps sewing machines, 3D printers, similar to the concept of when you used to be able to rent a VCR from your local video shop and utilize a piece of equipment temporarily or in the short term in order to maximize your resources. So even though equipment rentals is listed there, it was more with the intention, and given the layout, the space, the no yard, the no fenced areas or warehousing, that it would be more smaller, perhaps cost limiting items that could be utilized by the citizens of Lacombe and beyond.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Final call for anybody who wishes to speak in favor of this item. I see none. I'll call anyone that's opposed to this item to come forward. I'm going to call a second time. Not seeing any movement. I will move then to any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard. Again, a call for anyone who deems themselves to be affected, wishes to be heard. I see no movement. Final call. Okay, thank you. I declare the public hearing for bylaw 400.80 closed at 6:38. With the conclusion of the two public hearings, that does then move us along in our agenda to requests for decision. 6.1 and 6.2 are exactly related to those items. We will start with the bylaw 405.6 and call whoever is speaking to that as the presentation forward to the presenter table. And the floor is yours.
Tonight is not my night, I don't think. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is to present an amendment to map 1 of the city's municipal development plan to change the subject lands from commercial lands to future mixed use for council's consideration. Staff is recommending that council give second reading to bylaw 405.6 as presented, and that council resolves to consider the third reading of bylaw 405.6 at the same meeting as second reading, and that council gives third reading to bylaw 405.6 as presented. And administration is here to support council's deliberations. Thank you.
Do we have any questions on this item? Or anyone willing to prepare to make that second reading motion? Councillor DeBresser.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. I move that council give second reading to bylaw 405.6 as presented.
I see no lights on. We'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote. And that is passed unanimously. As was mentioned, administration is looking for third reading. In order to allow us for third reading, we need to pass a special bylaw. Do I have someone prepared to make that motion? Sorry, a special bylaw, special motion, I apologize. Bylaw on the brain. Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. I move that council resolves to consider the third reading of bylaw 405.6 at the same meeting as second reading.
No lights. I will go ahead and call the question. Please vote. And that is passed unanimously, which does allow us to move to third reading should someone be willing to make that motion. Councillor Proud.
And I'll move that council give third reading to bylaw 405.6 as presented.
Seeing no further lights, I will go ahead and call the question. Please vote. That too is passed unanimously. 405.6 has passed third reading. That moves us then to 5.2. Sorry, 6.2, bylaw 400.80. Further amendment to land use bylaw, if you wish to continue.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So this is to amend the land use bylaw by creating a new direct control district DC6 and by redesignating parcels at 5020, 5024, 5028, and 5032 51st Street, legally described as lots 13 to 16, Block 1, Plan RN1, from their existing designation of C1 Downtown Commercial District to the new DC6 Direct Control District 6. Staff is recommending that council give second reading to bylaw 400.80 as amended, and that council resolves to consider the third reading of bylaw 400.80 at the same meeting as second reading, and that council gives third reading to bylaw 400.80 as amended. And administration is here to support council's deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you. If I have anyone with questions or willing to make a first motion, Councillor Span.
Through Mayor Hibbs to administration, the only comment I had on this one, I'm comfortable doing this. It just seems a little strange to me that at this point in the city's life, we don't have a zoning that's there to do what they're trying to do. And I'm just wondering, I know we've got it in our strategic plan later on, where maybe we want to take a look at how some of our zoning could be adjusted to accommodate for these types of projects.
Through Mayor Hibbs to Councillor Span. So great point. We have a couple different options that we're proceeding with. So the land use bylaw innovation amendments, the surveys are live for some of our amendments that are going forward. The housing diversity portion, which was brought forward for council's endorsement a few months ago, that won't be going forward until a little bit later on, but that is something we can look at in terms of which districts allow for what types of housing. In this circumstance, we do have an existing district in land use bylaw, the RCM district, that does allow for a mixed use dwelling. But that's not applied to any of our districts currently in the city of Lacombe. So with this specific application, this direct control district is what worked best for the applicant to give them what suits their business needs. However, I do know it's the applicant's intent that they wanted to create this district with the hopes of other people using it for mixed use in the future. So this might be our jumping off point, but if it's approved, it will be anyone can ask to rezone to this district in the future.
Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Through to Acting Manager Backway. My question is, what are the main differences between an RCM and DC? DC6.
So through Mayor Hibbs to Councillor Goings, I just got to get my page here. The main differences with this one that speak from a development perspective has to do with the building orientation and the setback, as well as some of the parking and landscaping requirements. So those are specific to this future development that they're proposing to do. Also in the RCM district, you do have to have an approved outline plan in place prior to applying for either a purely residential or purely commercial. So if they weren't to go forward with a mixed use, then they'd have to adopt an outline plan first. So for example, in their conceptual plan that they're bringing forward, that's not being considered at this point, but the commercial building that's planned for an exterior renovation, that would technically be non-conforming in an RCM district without that outline plan in place. So they also require a master development permit to proceed prior to any development of a property. So it's just an extra step that would be required kind of at every stage in development, whereas this direct control district would set them off for success at the start, and then council would be the approving authority. So then council's vision would be what's applied at the development permit stage, where in the RCM district, the development officer would be the authority for those approvals.
Thank you.
CAO Gowdy.
In, excuse me, in an RCM district that met all of the required, didn't require, any variances, the development authority would be the development officer. But in most RCM applications, it would end up going to the Municipal Planning Commission. Would you say?
Through the mayor to CAO Gowdy, it'd be tough to say because we haven't had an application yet. But I would say, dependent on the scope of the application being brought forward, most of the more elaborate or complex would go to the Municipal Planning Commission for a decision.
Okay, so I think that is an important element to note also. It's not just about which uses or the specific setbacks or whatever that a developer may desire a direct control district. They may also desire that because the regulatory approval path is different. Instead of going to the Municipal Planning Commission, which may have a different vision slightly than City Council, it goes through, in this case, the same body that created or approved the direct control district is now approving the development that presumably will align very closely with the vision presented to this point. And then there's no appeal. So if to go through an RCM, even if you could fit it in with variances, say, there may be a reason as the developer that you would say, actually, I like this approval path with no appeal and potential for like advocacy about how it aligns with the city's vision, as opposed to the Municipal Planning Commission, which is made up of a combination of elected and non-elected people, and allows for a 3-week appeal after the fact where there's uncertainty in the process. So it does go beyond just land uses and the regulations, I guess.
I am prepared to accept a motion for second reading on this item. Councillor Span.
I'm prepared to make the motion to give second reading to bylaw 400.8 as amended.
Just a slight correction, 400.80. 400.8 was a long time ago. But yes, duly noted. I don't see any further lights on. I will go ahead and call the question. Please vote. And that is passed unanimously. Again, administration is looking for third reading. In order to allow us to do that, we need to make a special motion. Councillor Span, do you wish to make that as well?
I'll make that motion as well. That council resolves to consider the third reading of bylaw 400.80 at the same meeting as second reading.
I see no lights on. I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote. That does pass unanimously, which does allow us to have a third reading made this evening if someone is wishing to make it. Councillor Contenti.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I move that council gives third reading to bylaw 400.80 as amended.
I will
No.
go ahead.
Is it amended?
Yes,
Yes.
there are
thank
some
you.
slight amendments that was mentioned earlier. I will go ahead and call the question. Please vote. Just having a small technical glitch. Hang on. And that is passed unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, that moves us along in our agenda for this evening to item 6.3, which is the 2026-2029 strategic plan. Who do I have presenting this? City Manager Gowdy. Is this you that's
Thank
presenting
you.
this item?
Yes, it is. It's my pleasure to present the first draft and for your consideration, possible adoption. I want to thank the staff who helped get us to this point. There was a lot of fast turnarounds, and council also for your participation in the steps subsequent to the workshop. They really helped us refine where we're at today. Of course, as you know, the strategic plan is the primary guide for council's direction over the remainder of the term. It'll guide your spending decisions. It will guide how we bring things to you and how we recommend or provide advice to you. The development of this strategic plan actually, in a strange way, started in the last term, actually prior to your election, when we began polling the city's many agencies, boards, committees, and commissions to look at what their priorities are, talk about how they see themselves fitting in with the city, what their vision for the city is. We also actually took a poll of the previous council to give them an opportunity to provide some input into this year's plan for consideration as you work through it. And then we did some internal work also looking at sort of from the administrative lens, what do we see? So that was actually kind of fun. It all rolled up into a fairly lengthy document of what we heard. And you had a presentation of that from Director Thompson in early 2026 in preparation for this work. Then we had some pre-engagement surveys one-on-one with council. We had a couple of days of workshop. Then we moved into a refinement stage where we took the items that were generated in the workshop and just confirmed that, you know, we heard this, we think that means here's the steps we would take. Does that match with what you understood that to be? Because we weren't in each group. And so we just wanted to make sure that we were speaking the same language. Then we moved into a second round of prioritization where we all acknowledged that the first list is a great list of things if we had unlimited resources, but of course we don't. And so with the constraint of resources, where do you see those priorities? we took that and Director Thompson and his team did some work looking at where there was alignment with council, where there was misalignment or maybe scattered support. And then we created some ground rules as well that we said, well, every councillor needs to have a significant voice in the final plan. And so there has to be, of the 3 top priorities for each councillor, there should be at least 2 in that final plan for adoption. And in most cases, there's 3. We also looked at balancing it from a resource capacity amongst our different divisions, and then within the different strategic priorities, priority areas, of which there are 5. Just to look at making sure we're not overloading one specific area, because of course that would require rejigging of resources and more disruption than I think is needed to deliver the plan. So we came to 5 strategic priority areas. Those areas are responsible growth and infrastructure readiness, and I'll go through these in a little, I'll be giving a little more detail and an opportunity to provide feedback on the growth, or sorry, the priority areas, as well as the action items within there as we go through here. So it's responsible growth and infrastructure readiness. And maybe I will actually do it as we go. The goal here is to responsibly plan for Lacomb's growth. Make sure we have the required information, plan, policies, and systems to make responsible decisions about land use, transportation, general infrastructure, new facilities, and identification of critical infrastructure. That last one being one of council's top priorities is looking at where those critical infrastructure pieces might be. The next was community safety, health, and well-being. And there the goal, of course, is a safe, healthy, accessible, and connected community where residents are knowledgeable about where to find services that will help them, how to move around the city, and how to actively participate in community life in a positive and life-affirming way. Actually, sorry, I'm going to pause actually after each one. I'm going to go back to responsible growth and infrastructure readiness. There are a list in most areas of between 10 and 12 items, action items that we've identified as supporting that specific area. So I think what I'll do is open it up for any questions or feedback on the specific items within responsible growth and infrastructure readiness. I'll do that category by category for the 5 priority areas, and then I'll give a final opportunity for any sort of general feedback that hasn't been voiced yet. So with responsible growth and infrastructure readiness, I know council has been involved in this, as I said, since you've been elected, so you're quite familiar with these items and we've confirmed what they mean, but I do want to provide an opportunity for any feedback or questions.
Does not appear to be so. Oh, sorry, Councillor Span.
Sorry about that. With the list of action items that you have, and this maybe applies to all of them, was the priority list that we gave for specific items taken into account when looking at targeted timelines?
Yes, that was actually the starting point. And then we only made adjustments where competing priorities, especially those within the same division, required trade-offs of moving one or the other. But certainly the priority ranking was what we used to initially determine, is this happening 2026 or can this wait till 2028? Because of course, you won't get done all the things that you want to get done. And so the things that are pushed further down to 2028, 2029, there is a higher risk than those ones that are identified as priorities today in 2026. So we did use that priority ranking from council to come up with the list for sure.
I think we can move to the next category.
Okay, so the next category was that community safety, health, and well-being. And I had jumped back But just as a reminder, this is about public safety, transportation, emergency services, and community health and well-being infrastructure. Is there any questions or comments on the action items that have been identified in this priority area?
Does not appear to be so. Please proceed.
No good strategic plan would be done without a focus on economic prosperity and affordability, and certainly not in today's economy and conditions. So this is about supporting affordability, good financials, stewardship, making responsible choices with public dollars, and making sure that we're ready to support long-term community prosperity. So being ready for developments, being ready for business when it comes, and having the systems in place to support that development. Here, some of the high priority items, of course, are listed in the action items. And I know there's a couple of top priorities that council adopted here. Are there any questions or comments about these items?
Councillor Contenti.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. To City Manager, howdy.
Let's do it.
Yeah, just a question on that one in regards to timelines for this development business attraction promotional package pushed back to Q1 28, Q3 28. I was hoping, and I thought we had that as fairly high on our list of we need to be attracting businesses here. And part of being development ready is to have businesses know that Lacombe is open and ready for business. So I'm just concerned about that particular timeline because Q3 28, now we're getting just about the end of our drop off period.
So City Manager, just before I hand the reins over to you, it might be good to highlight sort of what already exists for businesses to access when it comes to our community, but also to answer Councillor Contenti's question. Go ahead.
Okay, so we do, of course, have Economic Development Coordinator, Mr. Ludit, who's with us here today, and he supports directly any businesses that would be considering joining Lacombe, of course, or expanding. We also have an economic development microsite that does give quite a bit of information about Lacombe from a market perspective. So like data for people considering investments. We took this to be kind of like a brochure type thing that would be available rather than Mr. Ludit kind of engaging on a custom one by one. He would also have the ability to have a standardized approach and some standard materials. But certainly that's what we're here for this evening, that if council desires higher priority on that item, we can look at ways that we can shuffle things around to make that happen.
Thank you, appreciate that. And yeah, it is high on my list. I see that promotional thing as using our development officer with this package, going to different places, trade shows, wherever, and have a really nice package that can be given out to developers. So that's was my idea.
I would just add one comment to that. I 100% agree that it is important, but I'm just recognizing that capacity is an issue. And I recognize that one of our first deliverables is the economic development strategy and developing a economic development board. And so I feel like there's going to be a lot of focus on that. And frankly, we should be identifying a plan and strategies, I think, prior to getting too far down the road. But I totally understand what you're bringing up here is that we do need to be ready for open for business and being able to explain that yesterday, never mind in 2 years, 3 years. So appreciate that commentary. Any other further questions or concerns on these items for this category? Does not appear to be so. If you wish to move on.
All right, just to make sure that I've responded to Councillor Contenti's comment, I very much agree. And I think what we could do is look at internally linking this development of the business attraction promotional package to sort of like as soon as that board has been formed, that's one of the primary things that they work on with Mr. Ludit. So we've got that stretching from 2026 right into 2028 because we do think developing the board and getting the right people on the, onboarding them could take some time. If it can be quicker, then we can just spool that business attraction promotional package right up. And we'll show that one sort of directly follows the other, if that would respond to your concern.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so the fourth priority area is communication, trust, and civic engagement. Here, we're looking to increase citizen engagement. We're looking to have informed citizens that even if they don't support every decision of council, they feel informed and that they had a voice in that decision and an opportunity to be heard. There is a desire, even tonight, you've seen, to look at more youth connection within Lacombe and to make sure that when there is significant planning and development projects or changes, that those impacted have an opportunity to be consulted during that process. It's about 8 action items here of the 45 in total. And so I'll open it up for any input or questions.
Does not appear to be so. Carry on.
Lastly, but certainly not least, is shared service delivery through regional partnerships. And so this is about identifying opportunities where it makes sense to share the load of service delivery with Lacombe County, with the town of Blackfalds, and other entities or stakeholders as the opportunity arises. So it's not just service provision, it's also funding of infrastructure. We've got reservoirs there. We've got some shared planning for recreation and stormwater management. And then, of course, you and I and Mr. Ludit, we're actually just meeting about this afternoon with the county, is the closure, the unfortunate closure of the research station to the south of us. So any questions or comments on these action items?
Does not appear to be so.
Okay, one of the other new components of this process that we haven't experienced in the past is a mandate letter from council to the city manager. So on page 8, there is a sort of statement from a joint statement from city council to myself, committing to supporting the strategic plan and sort of orienting to consensus towards allocation of resources, a recognition that issues and opportunities may arise during the term, and that there'll be open communication in terms of feedback to desired changes, improvements that are required, and a commitment to an annual strategic plan update to look at progress and potentially marking off or even considering new priority action items throughout the term. So draw your attention to that because you will be sort of digitally signing your name to it once we approve this. And so we do want to make sure it reflects your shared vision there.
Are there any questions on that item? Or any other part of the plan? I do want to say that I've been involved in this. This is the third time really having an opportunity to do so. I really love the layout of this specific plan. I think it's very readable and very easy for an average resident to go through. And if they have obviously questions, they can easily follow up with any one of us or administration. I do really want to give a profound thank you to administration for a really well done workshop opportunity. So thank you, Director Thompson in particular. I think that was a very valuable experience for all of us. I think that we felt that we had a very good opportunity to weigh in and give opinion and feedback on that. For myself, I feel like this draft is a very good reflection on what it is that we discussed. And I fully appreciate and agree that this is very likely what council collectively said that they wish to see for priorities. So yeah, just a big thank you to that, because this is a pivotal foundational document for this term. I realize that we're almost a year in already. That's amazing to me, but this will lay out the work plan for the remainder of our term and bleed into the next as well a little bit. So well done, everybody. Councillor De Bresser.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Hibbs. I want to have a discussion around, we had two things that didn't make the plan, and they were listed in the RFD there. The review and expand of community peace officers service delivery, as well as the next one down there, evaluating and establish the municipal endowment fund framework. In the report, it listed that we were split on those decisions on actually them making them into the actual report there. I would say those two items would have a profound impact on the residents of our community. There's some of the things listed in our strat plan as it is presented today are more admin in nature. So I look at corporate services and protective services. They've got 7 items that they're going to complete over the next 7 years, hopefully. A couple of them are really internally focused, like cybersecurity and whatnot. I would like to hear who opposed it, not opposed it, but didn't put priorities on these things, and just hear the thought and reasoning behind that. One thing I mentioned when I brought this up at strategic planning is community safety. That's all I heard, and taxes, of course. And this is one item that we could address through our strat plan, that maybe add some resources to there, see what that looks like. Even a report coming back from administration to give us some idea of what that looks like, costing, service delivery, equipment that they need, that type of thing. So I'd like to hear from any council members that didn't rate that as high. And if we can, we could kind of swap some things out under corporate services or add it in there as a priority. And the municipal endowment fund as a framework. So we talked about that briefly, and that's something that would have a lasting legacy on the community. And I say that in the fact that most council members come and they want to either they build things and have their name on something. This could be something, the framework that we could implement, and I don't think it's too much of an effort and to get that in and have a lasting impact. If we did get some donations, we do get the ball rolling, that you can actually contribute to the everlasting look home, if that makes sense. So I'm open for some discussions there if council wants to give me some feedback there. But those two things I would like to see. If administration thinks it's unreasonable, or we need to kind of reprioritize those two things. And my other question is, we've got a council member missing today. And it's unfortunate, but as City Manager Gowdy said, we're signing like a contract. Like this is the mandate, and not having somebody at the table to kind of give their thoughts and opinions. We're kind of signing them up for, hey, you're silent, so you have to go with it. So maybe if administration is looking for this to be stamped tonight, or whether we can defer it to the next meeting if we're all here in agreement. But they're my ideas, and I'll open it up for any questions or any other comments.
I would put that to administration, the question about what the deferment of this would be, other than probably a full month, again, waiting for this implementation, because our next meeting isn't until August. City Manager Gowdy.
Yeah, I mean, we've started working on some of the, where there's unanimous support, clearly unanimous support. We've already started working on some of the items. So if these two items, if we receive direction tonight that actually we do want to include these two items, and we accept that there may be some reshuffling of priorities and something might even fall off, it's not going to have a big impact on us, because the items that are high priority already, we have those in the work plan. It would be just these few things looking to shuffle, so it'd be no problem to hold it off for adoption at a subsequent meeting.
Perhaps the cleanest would be then to postpone this decision to the next meeting. However, do we have 100% attendance for the August, whatever that would be, meeting? Councillor Contenti.
I will be on a small island, but it does have internet, so I hope to be available through Teams. So I won't be here physically.
And if we were to postpone this item to the next council meeting, would it be a realistic expectation to ask if we did swap in one or both items, what would be potential a proposal to be dropped off? I don't know if that's really a fair ask of administration or if that's something that council would have to propose, because this is the problem with when you start swapping this stuff around, is there is only so much capacity. There's only so many slots, and it starts getting quite the horse trade when you're trying to figure out what that might look like. Councillor Contenti.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. So I was just going to provide some background or information on increasing the bylaw duty officer or duties of the bylaw officer. I believe we discussed it quite lengthily and ended up being, if I recall, if we're adding these higher level type of things to the bylaw officers, the everyday things which we already get a lot of complaints about, weeds and dogs and whatever, are just going to fall off. Shouldn't say just fall off, but they're going to be reduced. And then now we're going to have increased numbers of bylaw officers to take care of the other stuff. I think that's kind of what the conversation went around, if I remember. And it was like, yeah, I'm not sure if that's really what we want to do.
Councillor Span.
Through Mayor Hibbs. Yeah, with the CPO item, those were some of my concerns, the potentially increased cost, of needing to hire more bylaw enforcement. And that's why I didn't rank it on my list. I'm sure you all know that the endowment fund was pretty high on my list. It was actually number 2, I believe, on my list. I'm extremely passionate about that one, and I agree with what Councillor DeBresser said in regards to that.
Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. I just wanted to comment. I completely appreciate everything that you shared, Councillor DeBresser, about these two motions, and I support both of them. But I do disagree with deferring this decision based on attendance. I think, like, with full respect, everybody has an opportunity to be here, and if they're not, it's their choice. So that's how I feel.
I will weigh in on the one, the review and expand community police officer service delivery. I have zero interest in expanding that personally for the reasons that were mentioned earlier. So they were definitely not on my priority list. Things like traffic should remain with the LPS, and we should have expectations that LPS will deliver on that service. So I am not in favor of that. And frankly, the municipal endowment fund for myself is just not a priority. It doesn't mean that it's not a good idea, that it's not something that I would be interested in. It's just not a priority. So those are the reasons that I did not choose them. I also not hugely in favor of deferring this, but I will listen to my council colleagues as to what they wish to do. Councillor Proud.
And I'll just weigh in on the question as well. I actually did rate the community peace officer higher on mine as well. I just felt like that was a lot of feedback that I received during the election too, that we needed to have more, or maybe they needed to have the ability to enforce more in Lacombe. And I'm fine with going ahead tonight or leaving it till another meeting.
Councillor Contenti.
Yes, thanks. Just in regards to Councillor Deißler, she did contact me with a couple of things that she might have been concerned about. They were addressed here already. So I think, I can't speak for her, of course, but I think she'd be comfortable with going what we have decided tonight.
If you wish to go ahead and make the motion that is being requested, if you're comfortable. Councillor Span.
I would move that council adopts the City of Lacombe 2026-2029 strat plan with the following amendment, and that is to include the the item about evaluating and establishing a municipal endowment fund framework.
Very good. That is the motion on the floor. I will be voting against that motion only because I don't support the addition of that item, just to be clear. That is just one vote. Councillor Goings,
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Would there be another motion to review and expand the CPO service delivery? Or,
you can make an amendment to add that.
okay, I would like to make that amendment.
Would you want to see that in addition to the endowment, or only that one for the addition to the strategic plan? Does that make sense?
To move both of those
To move both of
items.
those
So
items?
Councillor Span moved to that one, and then I would move to expand CPO.
Okay, so we're having an amending motion then by Councillor Goings, which would also add the CPO. Sorry. Oops, I went too far. The review and expand community peace officer service delivery item as well. Any further? So right now, we're just going to be making the amendment of adding the second item to the original motion. So if it does that make sense? Please ask for clarification if that's
Yeah,
not
that-
making sense.
That was my clarification question. Exactly. If this gets voted down, do we go back to the original?
The
motion?
original motion, that
Okay.
is correct. So if this motion fails, that means the amendment that Councillor Goings is proposing fails. We go back to the original motion, which was Councillor Span's, which is accepting the strategic plan as amended, like with the single addition of the endowment fund. Legislative Coordinator Post, did you have something to add?
Just for clarity, Councillor Span made the motion to include the endowment fund framework, and Councillor Goings made the amendment to also include the community police officer. Okay, if I may suggest the motion then.
Just 1 minute. I think one thing that's being confused is the fact that Councillor Span said amended. So it's confusing where we have an amending motion and then, but the original motion has the word amending in it. The original motion is not an amendment. It's an actual standalone motion, properly worded. It's just recognizing the fact that we're adding a segment. So that is not the motion that we're debating currently. What we're debating is the further addition of the CPO service delivery.
That council amend the main motion to say that council adopt the City of Lacombe 2026-2029 strategic plan with the amendment to include review and evaluate and establish a municipal endowment fund framework and review and expand community peace officer service delivery.
I'm curious if amendment is the proper word that Councillor Span wanted to use, or perhaps addition. Would that be more?
I think addition is probably a better word.
A
I know
better-
in the agenda, it uses the word amendment, and that's what I was basing it off of, but I do think addition is better.
I think for clarity, so it'd be the strategic plan in the, as presented with the addition of the endowment fund aspect. Yeah.
Would you like me to read that back to you?
Sure, just so we can have the main motion very clear, but then we'll return back to the amending motion.
That council amend the main motion to say that council adopt the City of Lacombe 2026-2029 strategic plan with the addition to include review and evaluate and establish a municipal development fund framework and review and expand community peace officer service delivery.
Okay, so that would be the amending motion in its entirety. But does that make sense? Are we understanding what the full motion would read if the amendment passes? It would include both items. Very good. Okay, so again, passage of this motion only then adds that second piece. It does not move the main motion forward. Sorry, it doesn't pass the main motion. All right, I don't see any further lights. Oh, sorry, legislative coordinator. No, okay. I think IT is caught up to where we are. Councillor Span.
Just through to council, for those that are in support of that CPO component, I'd be curious to hear some of your reasons for why. Why you would like to have that part included. I guess I only know what I know and my reasons for being opposed to it, but I would like to hear your reasons for why you would like to see that.
Can I jump in?
Yes, I guess you're the next person to speak.
Sorry.
Yes, Councillor
Great
DeBresser.
question, Councillor Span. So two things. Everything that we've got identified in our strategic plan is going to take resources, whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's anything else. So to Councillor Contenti's question, it's going to take some money. Yeah, everything in our strat plan is going to take money, time, whatnot. We heard from the police presentation when they came and presented earlier this year that they are traffic is traffic, and I would say they're getting pulled in every which direction for the social kind of duties that they're getting called out to. So we heard firsthand that the policing duties are getting stretched, and whether we as a municipality or as a council direct them to, hey, now traffic is your lane. You need to enforce traffic, even though they're getting pulled in every which way direction to do the criminal code and all the other higher end stuff. So that kind of rang a bell with me that their police officers are not, they're getting stretched in different directions over and above policing. Like I mentioned on the campaign, traffic safety. I was walking down residential streets and traffic, kids are playing. So I heard that and I was like, well, how do we address that? Can we direct the police to enforce? However, the community peace officers have the ability to do that. So let's explore that. That's the actual motion that I'm kind of looking at. It's not, hey, we're going to go ahead with it. Let's give an administration the order to, hey, what does it look like? Do we need another CPO? Do we need a vehicle? Potential fine revenue to pay for half, up to half of that position or whatever that looks like. So that was my thinking around that and why we should include it and not just to discard it, if that's hopefully answered some of your questions there.
Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Yeah, I completely agree with Councillor DeBresser on that. I think we had a really fulsome conversation at strat planning about this. And so I'd really like to have the conversation and have it be on our strat plan of just looking to review and expand if possible and seeing that in a report come back to us with opportunities, if that makes sense.
Councillor Contenti.
Yeah, just going back to conversation with police chief when he was here, we asked him, do you have the right levels of policing for what you need to do today? His answer was, yes, I believe we are at the right level. So that to me said they can handle whatever they need to do. So that's why I'm not going to, one of the reasons it's not just about money, it's like, I'm worried about the other duties that are going to get dropped because I can see that happen. The other ones aren't sexy. Giving fines out for traffic is cool stuff to those type of people. Sorry, for those that are in that enforcement.
Councillor Proud.
And every time I talk to residents, that's one of the main concerns that seems to come up is traffic and bylaws and enforcement. And all you have to do is walk the streets or drive Lacombe and everybody's speeding. And I think the police chief said they pulled someone over in the school zone going 90 the other day. I mean, it's just, they don't have enough to enforce all of it. So I think that we could use a little bit more coming from our bylaw officers, just giving them a little bit more to work with, and more authority.
I just would have a final note to say that the Police Commission is also doing their strategic plan starting this fall. There will be a very public aspect of that so that the public is able to weigh in and explain that traffic is a priority in this community and needs to be a priority in this community. And that the fact that the amount of tickets that are being wrote for traffic has significantly decreased over the last few years, and that the community is telling us and therefore them that this needs to be a priority. And unfortunately, I will be voting against this amendment because I do feel like typical bylaw causes a lot of friction between the community members, and somebody needs to be looking after that. It's well behind as it is, and so the fact that we add more duties onto them will either cost more because we expand that area, and do not think for a second that fine revenue is going to cover anything. So we either add more bodies to that, or we just accept that municipal bylaws are not going to be enforced because there's just not the time. So unfortunately, I will be voting against this amendment. Councillor De Bresser.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Hibbs. One last comment, just a procedural comment, question here. Procedural bylaw, if it's a 3-3 split, the motion is defeated, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I see no further lights on, so we'll go ahead and call the question. So this is again a vote on simply the amendment, which is the addition of the CPO service delivery component. I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote. So the amendment does pass with 4 in favor and 2 against. That's myself, Mayor Hibbs, and Councillor Contenti, I believe, were against. So now we return to the main motion. And the main motion now will does include both of those items, both of the additions, which is the CPO service delivery as well as the Municipal Endowment Fund framework. Any further comments, City Manager Gowdy?
Okay, so just because this is going to adopt the strategic plan with these items added in, and we haven't assigned timelines yet, procedurally, either we can come back with an updated strategic plan at a future meeting, or at the next annual update, when typically we're rejigging timelines and everything anyway, we can then assign timelines to these 2 additional items. Is there any strong preference for one or the other, that either A, it return sort of like at the next possible opportunity, could be the next council meeting, or B, take the time to see where it fits and come back basically like a year from now with assigned timelines?
Councillor Span.
My preference would be the second option, and just address it when we readjust the timelines. I don't know how the rest of council feels.
I have no objection to that personally. Councillor De Bresser.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Hibbs. How much effort, you will have another month before our next council meeting. I would like to know sooner rather than later where it fits in the plan, just for communication wise. You know, if a resident asks me, you know, I've been saying that, you know, it's going to make the strat plan and whatnot. If I don't have a rough timeline, whether it's through an email saying, hey, we slotted it in here, you'll see that confirmed in a year's time, or whether consent agenda report next council meeting saying, hey, rough timelines are here, but I'd rather sooner rather than later, if that's okay.
I'm not sure we have clarity on what, I've got one speaking in favor of one option and one speaking in favor of another option. Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. Yeah, I agree with Councillor De Bresser. Once again, I'd rather have this come back sooner than later.
Councillor Span.
To have it come back to next meeting means that we wouldn't be voting on it till next meeting. Is that correct?
We can do either. I was actually going to suggest that potentially then it would make sense to me. Why wouldn't we just postpone this item, your main motion to the next meeting, voted at that time? We'd have a better idea of what the consequences potentially look like, is what I'm hearing.
I would prefer still to vote on this matter tonight. But I guess that's what I was trying to look for clarification on from administration, whether it would mean that we couldn't vote on it till next meeting, or if we could vote on it now, but then you'll bring back the timelines next meeting.
You have either option. If you postpone it till the next meeting, you have the opportunity to say, I don't like what you selected, make this change. If you adopt it tonight with the direction for me to just bring back the updated timelines, then in theory, you're just taking whatever I'm telling you, here's where it's slotted in. Now, having said that, of the 45 items here, we have collectively told you the dates of those 45. So you've already kind of adopted that practice. So it's either one. We're fine with that.
Councillor Contenti.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Hibbs. The thing is, for me tonight is voting on it. I'm going to have to vote against because I don't think we have enough information to make a decision, especially on the CPO extra duties. So it's kind of a bummer that I've gone through all this and now I got to vote against it tonight just because I don't have enough information. So that's why I would sooner have it later, but council make that decision.
Councillor De Bresser.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Hibbs. So the actual motion's still on the table, yeah? So
It is, but you can still now make a motion to postpone that.
Yeah.
So that is an option.
Yep. I think I'm ready to vote. I think we should, it's been 9 months in the making since we've been elected. Oh, is it 9 months? I think we need to get this kind of stamped. I'm happy with administration with whatever timeline they can slot it in. I'm grateful that the council's kind of agreed to look at these things in our next 3.5 years that we got. So I'm prepared to vote and get this kind of wrapped up.
That is the motion on the floor. Without a motion to postpone, we'll go ahead and call the question. And this is on the main motion made by Councillor Span that was amended to include both endowment fund and the CPO service. Go ahead and call the question. Please vote. The strategic plan with amendments does pass in a vote of 4-2 with Mayor Hibbs and Councillor Contenti voting against. That brings us then to the next item in our agenda, which is 6.4, Lacombe Lake Management Plan Committee. Director Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs, and thank you for your kind words on the previous item. Of course, there's a team behind me that puts in a lot of work, and credit goes to them as well. I know you see that, but just want to say that out loud. The Lacombe Lake Management Plan began as a condition of the town of Blackbald's Water Act approval for its Northwest Stormwater System. The proposed new stormwater system will collect and treat runoff from the town through a series of unlined, hybrid, natural, and engineered stormwater ponds. These ponds are designed to encourage infiltration, remove sediment, and control the rate at which water is released toward Lacombe Lake. For those the public who may not be aware, Lacombe Lake is a water body south of Lacombe. Downstream of the lake, Lacombe County manages an outlet system which includes a pipe, an open ditch, control gates, a weir, and a diversion channel connecting the lake to Whelp Brook. And Whelp Brook then flows through the city of Lacombe. Blackfald's approved stormwater management study found that the proposed stormwater system meets engineering requirements and that the downstream effects on the city of Lacombe are expected to be minimal. However, during the Water Act consultation process, Alberta Environment and Protected Areas heard concerns from residents and other stakeholders about possible effects on Lacombe Lake. In response, the province made the preparation of a lake management plan a condition of the town's approval. A lake management plan brings together residents, landowners, municipalities, the province, and other interested groups to better understand the lake and its current condition. It identifies the main concerns and priorities, recommends practical actions, and outlines the resources and responsibilities needed to implement the plan and monitor progress. Lacombe County agreed to serve as the managing partner and project lead for the lake management plan. This reflects the fact that the lake is located within the county and that the county is responsible for the related outlet and control infrastructure. In August of 2025, Lacombe City Council endorsed the county's application for funding through the Alberta Community Partnership Program. The application was successful, and the county has secured funding for a joint planning process involving Lacombe County, Town of Blackfalds, and the City of Lacombe. The city has also participated in previous regional watershed and flood planning studies with the county and the Town of Blackfalds. Its continued involvement allows the city to contribute its local knowledge while remaining in a supporting role. In implementing this project, the city is following the county's lead on both process and governance. This is why administrations for the city and town are requesting their council's approval for the request for proposals and the project terms of reference, and appointing council representatives to the project steering committee. If approved, the next steps will be to retain a consultant, which is funded by the approved grant, completing the background analysis, undertaking stakeholder and public engagement, and then preparing the non-statutory lake management plan. The final plan will be presented to the partner municipalities for consideration and possible approval. The project is currently expected to be complete by spring of 2028. Council, I'm here to help support your deliberations. Thank you.
Did we have any questions on this item or, or anybody prepared to make the first motion? Councillor Contenti.
Yes, I move that council endorses the terms of reference for the Lacombe Lake Management Plan.
Seeing no lights, I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote. That is passed unanimously. There are two other motions there. Councillor Goings.
Thank you, Mayor Hibbs. I move that council endorse the request for proposals for the Lacombe Lake Management Plan.
I see no further lights. I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote. That also passes unanimously. The third item under this, the third motion under this item requires us to identify two members of council. This was not something that was discussed prior to this council meeting. So what I am looking for ideally are volunteers that have interest to sit on this committee. Councillor DeBresser, I believe your light was on first.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Hibbs. I'd just like to be excluded from a nomination to be a representative based on my day job.
Very good. I was already ahead of you on that one. I wasn't going to say it out loud, but I appreciate that you bring that to our attention. Councillor Contenti.
Yeah, I'm prepared to take the position of representative for this steering committee.
Very good. Do I have anyone else that wishes to be that representative or as an alternate to be the alternate for that committee? Councillor Span.
I would be open to being the alternate.
Yeah, okay. All right, if I have
Chris
somebody
doesn't get sick often.
if someone is prepared to make the motion then of Councillor Contenti as the main representative and Councillor Span as the alternate. Councillor Proud.
And I move that council appoint Councillor Contenti as the City of Lacombe representative and Councillor Span as alternate to the Lacombe Lake Management Plan Steering Committee.
Very good. I appreciate your help with that, everyone. I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote. And that is passed unanimously. All right, that moves us along to the addition that we had in the request for decision, which was 6.5, which was the pulled report from our consensus agenda. Councillor Span pulled this, so I'm going to open it up for his questions.
I just had a couple of questions in regards to the CAO Q2 report. I know this will, typically I would direct these questions to Director Pache, but maybe administration can help me with them. It has to do with the bylaw updates. Ironically, with our previous discussion. It shows on the bylaw updates that the number of bylaw tickets issued were 328 to date in 2026, and that the number of bylaw files closed compliant were 1,094 to date in 2026. And my questions had to do with just how do these numbers compare to previous years? And do we have a number for how many files are still outstanding and haven't been closed compliant in 2026?
City Manager Gowdy.
Yeah, I don't have the list of outstanding or the number of outstanding files that they would have at this point in time. Nor do I have the numbers of files closed compliant, just with Director Piché not here. I just don't have those off the top of my head. I did go back and look at some tickets over the last year and over the 3-year average. So last year, of course, council may or may not be aware, for the first 2 quarters, we were quite short-staffed. We were down to 1 and sometimes 2 bylaw officers, but actually mostly 1 for those first 5 months or so. And so we were quite a bit below the 3-year average of tickets. At that point, we were at about 145, so just under half of where we're at today. And the 3-year average being about 250 by the middle of the year. So well ahead of where you've been on a 3-year average, certainly much improved over last year, but there were those additional factors. Hope that answers the question. And when Director Piché is back, I'll certainly follow up to see if we're able to get some of those closed file, open file stats that you talked about.
Thank you. Are we currently fully staffed for bylaw?
Yeah, so we have a supervisor in bylaw, and then we have 2 officers as well. And we are currently fully staffed.
Thank you. And those were my only questions on that item.
Just for procedural, should we now then be accepting the CAO report just because it was not included in the consensus agenda? And that would make sense potentially for Councillor Span to move that we accept the CAO Q2 summary report. I don't even know if we have to say that, we just have to accept it.
To accept as information?
Very good. That is the motion on the floor. I'll go ahead and call the question. Please vote. Oh, it might not actually be. Hang on. Sorry. On the fly stuff. There we go. It is there. I would be shocked if it wasn't, but that is passed unanimously. Thank you very much. That does take us to the end of the public portion of tonight's meeting. The next meetings for council, the next regular meeting council, next regular council meetings are August 10th, August 24th, and September 14th. So there's not a second meeting in July. I will go ahead and hear a motion to move us in camera. Councillor Goings.
I move that we move in camera at 7:47.
Go ahead and call the question. Please vote. And that has passed unanimously. Thank you.